Welcome back to my garden. I wanted to invite you guys today to come do some chores with me. Well, you don't have to do them, you can just watch and I'll take you around. Today I've got to go harvest some mulberry fruits or mulberries, and I've got to do some pruning of wildflowers, putting in some slips that came from my sweet potatoes into the ground, transplanting cucumbers, getting some jalapeno peppers started, probably some other things. Oh, I got to prune my tomato plants. Yeah, so we've got some things to go do, and I figured it'd be fun to let you guys come along and kind of see what it's like as we're heading out of spring and into early summer. Oh, okay, well, come along. So a few of my sweet potatoes have been sprouting little slips, so instead of just cutting them off and throwing them away, which is what I have typically done, we've had some challenges with our sweet potatoes spreading back towards the house, and I think it's just because we've been walking here too much. So I figured I'd give the new sweet potatoes a head start by putting some of these slips in the ground. And yeah, because I figured it's just gonna take me a minute to do, so why not get it done? So I've got both the orangish type that I have and the white type that's kind of more like a potato. And all I did was just pluck them off, and you can see like it just kind of, can you see that? Ba-doop. There you go. Can you see this? This was, gosh, this has been, I don't even know how many inches of mulch we've done throughout the years. Probably 6 feet to 12 feet we've probably done. It's a lot. So we're just gonna take that and tuck it in like that. And I'm just gonna cover it up like that and let it be. This looks less broken down. What do you think, this one? So you can see our native butterfly garden is a little bit too wild for what I'm looking for. Like, I know they're all wildflowers, but the Coreopsis leavenworthii has a tendency, it grows up nice and tall, looks really pretty, and then it falls over, which is really how it propagates itself. So I need to go in and trim it up a bit, take some of the stuff off, and make sure we go and compost it. But otherwise, we just need to tidy it up a little bit, pull it back in, also so it doesn't overtake the vegetables right now. But you can see the bees and the butterflies, they like it. They like it a lot. So it's mulberry picking time. This is an everbearing mulberry tree that we have, or an everbearing mulberry plant. Because technically it's not a tree, it's a shrub, but you can see it gets pretty tall. They can get, I think, 20, 25, maybe up to 30 feet tall. Don't quote me on that. but I know they get at least 20 feet tall, which is part of the reason I put them right here. So our house is right here, and this is the west, and the sun beats on that wall. So I was looking for plants to be tall to provide some shade so that our bedroom wouldn't be, you know, super hot, because we could feel the radiating heat coming out of the wall. So I was looking for a plant that got like 20 feet tall, and mulberries were the thing we picked. And I get a lot of regular questions about the mulberry trees, like what type are they? So Everbearing Mulberry Trees. I also get asked a lot about pests. So I figured while I harvest, I could answer some of those most frequently asked questions. So this is a mulberry tree. Yay! They have these black type of mulberries, which are super yummy. I would say they taste like somewhere between a raspberry and a blackberry. I think they definitely got the tartness that you get. It's that time of year where they're super ripe, and all you have to do is like barely touch them, and then they just go all over the ground. So I have to pay attention to that too. Which is also why I like to hold this little bin. I know it's not like as farmy looking. It's actually a thing from a kid's place that someone gave to us, and now we just keep like sweet potatoes in it, and we use them. We leave them in the garage, and we grab them when we're harvesting. So there's that. But I like holding it while I'm picking, because oftentimes, almost like plinko, they'll just come boop, 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 and if I've got it right below where I'm picking, I can have a chance of catching about half the ones that fall on me. So yes, but yeah, so these have blackberries. They're really yummy, but unlike, even though they look a lot like, you know, your standard blackberry-ish, they don't have that hard center to them, so that's nice. I would also say I think they're convenient because they're up higher, so you don't get quite, I think, some of the same problems with pests as I hear from like things like strawberries. But you will get things like birds. I get a lot of questions about, what are the birds? What about the birds? The birds get them. Actually, I don't know if you can see it, but if you see little bits of black on the leaves here, that's from the birds eating it up high. I'll grab a leaf. So like that's evidence that I've had birds eating the berries. Now, I'm not mad about this, because, you know, we're trying to get more wildlife in the yard, having a sanctuary for our wildlife. So we're not mad about the fact that birds eat some amount of the food, especially for the fact that this tree is so high. There are so many ripe berries that are super, super high up that we absolutely cannot reach. So other than me pruning those branches and getting rid of them, those berries just eventually fall to the ground, which we do pick some amount from the ground depending on how shiny they look, because if they're shiny, that means they're freshly dropped. Once they get that dull look, usually there's ants or something inside them. But other than them falling, really, what am I gonna do with them? So if the birds need some, that's cool, they can have some. Another question I get is, how do you know when to pick them? The easy answer is if you gently touch it, I mean gently touch it, and it comes falling off, or it drops off in front of you, it's ready. You can tell this one has just, as the light's hitting it, just the slightest reddish look to it. You can eat this. It's totally fine to eat this. It's just gonna be more tart than this one will be. And they're also a little bit more fibery. You can also tell because this feels just a little bit more plump and squishy, so these will be not quite as juicy as these ones will be. You'll notice a bunch of the ones I'm picking right now seem, well, to me, I know because I know how big these get. They're on the smaller side right now. One, this tree tends to produce smaller ones because it's so cramped by the banana right here, who owes me a bunch of bananas. I swear it has been ready to flower for like a month now. I've been waiting for it to drop that flower and nothing. How rude. Once these get going and it's ready to start harvesting, the first couple days, maybe the first week, it's like, oh, okay, I go out there every day. I maybe get like a handful, maybe two, and then you're fine. But then once the bunch of these start ripening, if you're not out there every day, there are mulberries everywhere, like everywhere. You really kind of have to stay on top of it. Which has been difficult because like my work's been absolutely insane since the end of January. So all of spring has been crazy busy. So at best, we've been doing most days. We aren't doing most days. We're doing mostly every other day, which isn't terrible. There still have been like a ton of mulberries on the ground. We try to pick up some of it, but There's fruit flies at times. So you have to be prepared for this plant. Like when it's harvest time, it's harvest time. And you're gonna be harvesting for a good month. And what you see right now is kind of, it may seem like, oh wow, there's a lot of mulberries on there. This is actually the tail end. We're kind of getting to the end of the season for this first flush. I'm hoping I can do the right things this year to get a second flush, because the other years, the first year we only got 2 pounds. The next year we got 26 pounds. So this year we've already gotten, I don't know, I can't remember now. I remember we were at 26, but I think we've harvested at least another 5 pounds since then. So we're probably about 30 pounds. And that's with us missing a bunch of days. And that was one of the goals this year, was to make sure that we could harvest really well. And our vacation landed slap dang in the middle of like the height of harvest. So I know we lost probably a good couple pounds of mulberries, which is okay. I mean, it was good to spend time with the family, but we probably missed out on easily 2 pounds. And during the height, like when we were doing every other day, when there was just so many mulberries, and it wasn't like this now where it's tapering down, every time we harvested, we were probably at about 2 pounds each time. So when we harvested, a few days that we were able to keep back-to-back days, we were just slightly over 1 pound. So it's a lot. It's a lot. And you might think like, oh, that doesn't seem so bad, because if you're thinking like a tomato or a papaya, like you're thinking of pick a couple. But when it is a full bunch of mulberries, like 2 pounds is, you're gonna be like an inch or two deep in here. And it takes a while. And that's part of what makes it really hard, is that it's not just like you can come out here for a couple minutes. Ben and I will sit out here for like 30 to 45 minutes picking mulberries, because it takes time. But it's worth it, because they're super yummy. Oh, I love them. It's a fun one to just walk past and you just pick as you go along. So I'll probably be out here for 30 minutes. We won't watch me picking for 30 minutes, but I will be out here for 30 minutes easily picking this, because we also didn't pick it yesterday. More because I knew I was gonna film today, so you're welcome. And because I knew we were slowing down on how many mulberries we're getting. The other pest that everyone asks me about is rats. So I have seen a rat over here running along the fence line. I mean, there's only so much you can do to control wildlife. So we have places for snakes in the yard. We've seen rats historically running along this fence line, but I've only seen one ever, which means there's one, there's more, blah, blah, blah. I know. But at a certain point, you kind of got to go do what you got to do. So when it comes to the mulberries, you can just pick randomly what you find. But what I've been finding, especially when it was the heavy season of picking, was you kind of follow a branch along. And you just kind of follow and you go like, okay, cool, I got everything off that one. Now I'll follow this one. No, don't fall. See, you see what I'm saying? You barely touch these guys and they're just boop, boop, boop. Look at that. 3 good ones right there. 1 handful. So when it comes to mulberries, there's supposed to be other benefits. I have not tried these other benefits yet. Like, leaves are supposed to have medicinal benefits. I know some people feed it to like goats and chickens, the leaves. I can tell something eats the leaves from time to time, like a host plant. No idea what, haven't been able to figure that out. Definitely this is a plant you're gonna wanna keep pruned because of how close ours is to the house. We definitely keep it pruned back so that the branches don't touch the house line, especially with the potential of rats. So that's a thing to watch out for. Well, that's another thing. You do have to thin out the branches, which I experimented more this year of pruning to see kind of what happened with the plant. I'm gonna be doing, after we get done with this flush, I'll probably go and do some more thinning. One, to stimulate another round of mulberries, but also because this section right here is super hard to access. You are really all up in the mulberry plant in order to get to the berries. Some of the things I would have done differently with this plant, and actually already did, is I propagated from a cutting the mulberry tree so that I could have had access from kind of all around. While I can get all around this tree, it's very cramped to the fence back here. So it does make it more difficult. Also, there's a lot of really good mulberries in our next door neighbor's yard, which tend to get just cut off and thrown away. So That's what I would do differently, which is why I put one in the backyard where once it grows, we'll have easier access, kind of like 360, where we can get those big, juicy mulberries all the time. Yes, that would be a thing I would do differently. It really is the season where they're just like falling off now. I just look at them and they're like, ugh. It doesn't help that the mulch right below it hides, right? It's brown black mulch with then blackberry color. Ugh. I mean, you see how much is already kind of just from that quick picking. Blah. So now I've got berry juice on my hands. We've been doing this for about 30 minutes. So I think it's time to go move on to some of the other things I gotta get done. So I think up next, let's go transplant some cucumbers. Let's do that. All right, let's go. So I've got, how many do I have? 5, 4, 9. 9 cucumbers to go transplant. So we're gonna just spread them around. I know, I'm putting so many things on these trellises, but I really meant it. I really want to have these full all summer long. So, in these go into the ground.